All right, we are going to talk about the Denver sports team because people who are moving to Denver, relocating to Denver, want to know, like, hey, what are these Denver sports teams? We got the Broncos, the Nuggets, the Avs, and the Colorado Rockies. And I'm going to talk about the history, the good, the bad, the ugly. And if you're a person who loves sports, become a big sports junkie, you are going to love this video. So stay tuned and let's go. Hey, if you know who I am, my name is Nikola Jokic, your Denver real estate agent. If you're a buyer, seller, investor, have any other questions, leave a comment below. And at the end of the day, I want to be a resource to you and your realtor for life. Before you run away, please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. We're posting weekly content about what's happening in the Denver market and fun things to do. First team I'm going to talk about, the Denver Broncos. All right, so the Denver Broncos were founded in 1960, and so they played in the stadium, which is called Mile High Stadium. And then later on, they changed the name to Empire Field, but Mile High Stadium was better. So the Broncos founded in 1960. In 1981, they hired this coach. His name was Dan Reeves. He wore glasses, and he was 37 years old when they hired him. He was the youngest Broncos coach that was hired during the time. Then in 1983, they hired this slinger. His name was John Elway, and he was from Stanford. And he got drafted to the Baltimore Colts, which is then called the Baltimore Colts, which is now the Indianapolis Colts. But anyways, then he got traded to the Denver Broncos. And when the Broncos got John Elway, when he was drafted, then this is when the Reeves and John Elway era begins. So back to that. So the Reeves and Elway era, John Elway coached by Dan Reeves. So during that time, they won about 5 AFC West division titles, 3 AFC championships, and they made it 3 Super Bowls. But they lost all 3 Super Bowls. And they're like, all right, man, what's going on? We have Dan Reeves, we have John Elway, we got a slinger, and we make a Super Bowl, and we can't win games. So management is like, all right, Dan Reeves, you need to get out. You're not doing a good job with the Denver Broncos. You brought us to 3 Super Bowl, but we can't win a game. Then in 1995, they hired this guy named Mike Shanahan. And Shanahan, as I said, he was a offensive coordinator under Dan Reeves. In his first year, as a coach, he went 8-8. That was 1995. 1996, they drafted the stud running back. His name is Terrell Davis, TD, big guy, bald head, mean looking guy. Cool person, but mean, TD. So Terrell Davis, they drafted this guy, and 1996, they went 13-3. They're 13-3, not bad. Here we go again. But they got upset to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And people are like, man, damn, 13-3. We have John Elway, we got Terrell Davis, and we lost to Jackson. So another year comes by, and new year, 1997. The Broncos like, all right, man, let's do this. Let's go. From that, 1997, which I remember because I'm like, man, they looking good. Terrell Davis was a beast. He had over 2,000 yards rushing that year, 21 touchdowns. And 1997, finally, Denver Broncos finally won the Super Bowl. And that team, as I said, was a stud. These were the players. You had Elway, you had TD, you had Shannon Sharp catching the ball down the middle. And, you can't forget Champ Bailey. That boy was a shutdown corner. So Broncos had all the right pieces and won the Super Bowl in 1997. So when they won the Super Bowl in 1997, they ran it back. 1998, they won Super Bowl again, and people are like, all right, man, maybe we see a dynasty team right here. They got Shanahan, they got Elway, they got Terrell Davis, they got Shannon Sharp, and they got the right pieces, and they won back-to-back Super Bowls. So a new year comes after the Broncos winning back-to-back Supers. After 1998, John Elway is saying, all right, man, I'm getting old. I'm on back-to-back Super Bowls, and I'm done. I'm done. I want to hang it up. And people are like, man, damn, and then they're like, all right, we'll find, another quarterback to lead us to the glory days. And, teams got harder, more competition. So then when John Murray retired, then you have, Terrell Davis. He retired in 2002 because he was banged up, had lots of injuries, and they made it to several playoff appearances, but struggled. They couldn't, get it back to the Super Bowl. And they're trying to figure out, all right, what can we do? We're going through quarterbacks. We lost rebuilding, and they were in a rebuilding mode. So time has come by, 10 years later. They're trying to figure out what to do with the team. And 2011, they drafted this stud named Von Miller. He's an outside linebacker, quick. He would just sack you, and he was the best sack leader. They're like, man, this person has so much speed, and he could just break through blockers and just get to people. And he was a sack. In 2011, they got this stud, Von Miller, who was the captain of defense. So all right, Broncos defense was good, and they're building up. Then a year later, 2012, they signed Peyton Manning. And Peyton Manning, we all know how Peyton Manning was. He won Super Bowl, in the Colts, and he was having neck problems, injuries, and partway with the Colts had several surgeries, and they had let him go. But the Broncos all right, man, we will sign Peyton Manning, and they paid Peyton Manning some money because what the Broncos are trying to do is all right, we need to find a way to get to the promised land with Super Bowl. I think Peyton Manning will help us because the Broncos defense was solid. There's some good defensive players, and Von Miller was a beast. So all right, Peyton Manning came to Denver, signed his buku money, and 2012 was just man, this boy was lights out. With the receiver, he had Darius Thomas, rest in peace, and Emmanuel Sanders. And they had these, man, Manning had about almost 5,500 yard passing that season, 55 TDs. He set the single record. And that year in 2012, people were like, all right, man, these Denver Broncos offense was fire. Broncos about to win the Super Bowl. But they didn't make it to the Super Bowl, and they lost to Seattle. So damn, lost to Seattle. So after them losing to Seattle in the Super Bowl, then another year comes by, Broncos playing, and they make the playoffs, and they get upset by the Colts. Then, all right, now we're going to year 3 with the Broncos having Peyton Manning. And they're all right, Broncos had a good regular season. Then people are all right, man, this could, Thursday charm. Let's see what the Broncos could do with Manning and his firepower. So Manning didn't really have the best year that he had that first year. He was the Broncos, but defense was number one. The Broncos defense was kicking butt, led by Von Miller, Mr. Sackler. So Broncos are in the postseason. They play Pittsburgh Steelers. Boom, beat them. Next up, Brady. Here we go. We all know about the Manning and Brady years. The best matchup fight, head to head. So. But the cool thing is that the Broncos defense was so good. Champ Bailey, Brady had some bad games, threw some picks, and they beat the Patriots. So now Broncos are going to Super Bowl, and people are like, ooh, Cam Newton, whatever. And me, I remember that year, I was telling my man, this is the Broncos year. It's the third time, it's a charm. Peyton Manning is a G, and Von Miller, he's just a sack leader. And Von Miller did his job. He got MVP, and people are like, woohoo! Broncos were finally again Super Bowl champ. I know you don't want to hear this. Man's like, all right, I'm done. I'm hanging it up. I'm retired. 2016, I'm done. And so, fast forward, right now, Broncos, they're just trying to figure out what to do. And I know they had Russell Wilson for a couple years. He couldn't do squat. Sean Payton got hired. They're trying to figure stuff out. Like, they do have some, Patrick Surtain's a beast. He got paid, and they drafted Bowman Nix. And now, Payton drafted a QB. He went to, mold on me because Russell wasn't their guy. So right now, this is what's happening with the Denver Broncos. Second Denver sports team we're about to talk about, the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets was founded in 1967, and they were like in the ABA. Their original name was called the Denver Rockets. And so Denver Rockets, very interesting. Anyway, all right. Then in 1974, the team rebranded as the Denver Nuggets. When the ABA, the NBA merged. And as I said, they chose the Nuggets, to pay because Colorado had a mining history for the gold rush, so they want to call it the Denver Nuggets. So 1980, they had his coach. His name was Doug Moe. And the Nuggets, during the altitude, they became kind of like a run and gun, run foul, high scoring. They were a team who wanted to run up and down the court, score points, but no D. They're like, all right, who can score them points, but no D. Then in 1985, they made it to the Western Conference Final. Very popular guy name is like Alex English and, Dan Issel. But they had to play a team called the Lakers. And the Lakers in the 80s had Magic, Worthy, and all those cats, So knowing the Nuggets had no D, they lost the Lakers. And so the 80s, as I said, the Nuggets were just having problems to get over the hump. They have like a good regular season run, but struggling in the playoffs. And they're like, all right, man, we need to, figure things out. Like, what's going on with the Nuggets? The 80s, now we're going to the 90s. 90s, that a person on the team, Mr. Shot Blocker, they kept him a tumble, wave his finger, no. And he was the Nugget superstar, just blocking people left and right, had a good D, but, they lose. And 1994, this is the year I remember. The Nuggets were playing the Seattle Supersonics. And people remember that year. The Nuggets were just matching up, and Supersonics had, Gary Payton, Sean Kemp, Della Shrimp, Hershey Hawkins, those boys, and they're like, man, Nuggets, you got nothing on us. But for somehow, the Nuggets showed up. And the Nuggets were 8 seed, Supersonics was a 1 seed. And the Nuggets found a way to upset the Seattle Supersonics. Like one of the biggest upsets, like NBA history. I was like, wow, man, like the Nuggets upset Seattle, one of the best teams in the NBA, but they upset them. I think that's probably one of the best upsets, but then the next round they lost though. But hey, good story, good upset. So after, the upset they had, Nuggets continued to struggle, just couldn't find a way. Teams were competitive, and they just continued to struggle. There's this boy, who played for Syracuse. And I remember that year because he was a freshman, little cocky little dude. He's like, man, I'm about to take Syracuse to the Final Four, and we about to win a championship. And I'm looking at this kid, Carmelo Anthony, and I'm like, man, you're a freshman, and there's so many competitive teams, and he's talking all this smack that they're about to run their table. And soon enough, he backed what he said. Like, they won the national championship in Syracuse. So after they won the championship, 2003, the Nuggets had a high pick. They drafted Carmelo Anthony to, light things up. And he was a baller, man. Like, that boy could, drop buckets. So when they had Carmelo scoring, dropping buckets, the Nuggets, made it to the playoffs. But, they can't make it to the big game, the big dance, NBA Finals, because there were a lot of competition. The West was packed with some good talent. So 2009 came, new season, and these Nuggets were hooping, making baskets. Yeah, Melo. You had AI. You had Kenyon Martin. You had Chauncey Billups. You had J.R. Smith, who hit those threes. You had Birdman. People were like, man, this is the Nuggets team. This is our year. We are about to probably win the chip. I know we got some tough teams, but Nuggets were hooping that year. And they were playing, coming, whatever. And We got to play the Lakers. We know the Lakers. Like, damn, we got Kobe Bryant and Paul Gasol, Fisher, Ori, good coach Phil Jackson. And they're like, how can we beat this Lakers team? Like, how can we match up? And Denver Nuggets, they fell short and lost to the Lakers. And people were like, damn. So 2011 comes and Carmelo was like, man, I went out. This ain't the team for me. And went on the right pieces. And I went out. Like, I went out. Plus, money, big ego. His head is like, man, I want to get paid. I don't think Nuggets are a place for me. So Nuggets like, all right, cool. Peace. So Nuggets shipped him to New York. Melo, tested free agent. They shipped him. They traded him. Like, all right, peace. So when they traded their superstar away, Nuggets like, all right, man, we need to rebuild. So 2014, Nuggets had a high pick, and they drafted Nikola Jokic from Serbia. And he was a big body guy. And like, all right, we are going to build our team without Jokic. So 2015, they hired Mike Malone because they want Mike Malone to work with Jokic. And, Mike Malone got the job. They're like, all right, we got Jokic. And then 2016, they drafted the stud who had a nice J named Jamal Murray to the playoffs. They were winning games. Jokic and the Murray connection, and they just added little pieces. We're doing something, like people are like, all right, this team very competitive. This Jokic guy, they give him the Joker, and they had something special, and Mike Malone knew what he was doing, and it was just all, being patient, like the Nuggets were the team, people were talking about them. They're like, wow, like Jokic is not going anywhere. This boy could hoop, and he's a beast. But just need the right pieces. 2020, the Nuggets made a headline because played the Jazz and the Clippers and both down 3-1. 3-1 for the Jazz, especially the Clippers. I remember the Clippers had like Kawhi Leonard and the boys. And that team was loaded, and they were up 3-1. But for some reason, the Nuggets found a way to come back and beat them. They made it to the Western Conference Finals, and they played the freaking Lakers. And Lakers beat them. It's just so weird, man. Like, if you go back in the timeline of history, I feel like the Nuggets always had a run to the freaking Lakers, and Lakers beat them. 2023 was the year that the Nuggets was making noise. Like, everything was clicking in all cylinders. You had Jokic, who won MVPs. And this was a team that were just like hooping, like, boom, 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 just hitting jump shots. And they played the Lakers again. And people are like, oh, man, we know this. Bron and Davis. But the cool thing about it, all those previous years, but the Nuggets playing the Lakers, they lost. But this time, they gave the Lakers their own medicine, and they swept the Lakers on 4 games. Like, man, I'm done. Because in the past, Lakers owned the Nuggets number, but the Nuggets got them back. And they swept them. Then they play Miami Heat with Jimmy Buckets, and they beat the Heat in 5 games. And they were, the NBA championship. And of course, Jokic, come on, he was MVP of the finals. He won back-to-back MVPs, and he was just like the beast. And I remember, as I said, I remember that Nuggets team because I'm like, man, this team is just so good. Jokic is just like a big body, but he was just good. He was a person who just like the triple-double machine. Like, man, like he get triple-double boards. He makes people around him better. You kind of remember like back in the days, I know Jokic ain't no Shaq, but I remember when Shaq was in his prime, like Shaq made people around him. Like, when you had Shaq on your team, like you ain't losing, And then Jokic was that player. It's like, man, you have Jokic on your team, but you ain't losing. This year, the Nuggets, they just weren't in sync. I feel like they lost some key pieces for bench, and they had to play a young Minnesota team with Anthony Edwards, and they knocked out the Nuggets. But I think the Nuggets, the crazy thing is they're going to be around for a while, but they need to, add the right pieces, the right depth in the bench. But I'm very, very excited. I'm very excited for the Nuggets, and their future is very bright. 13, Colorado Rockies, founded in 1993. They were an expansion team. And the Rockies, when they were expansion team, like they were a new team in Denver, and they drew crowds. Like they were breaking major league records for attendance because a bunch of people came. They're excited, like, hey, we got a new baseball team, and they are in Denver, and we're excited. Colors are purple and gray, and like, all right, man, let's see what these Rockies have to do. In 1995, the Rockies made postseason, and they were, for the third season, they're saying, wow, became the fastest expansion team to reach the postseason just in 3 years. And people are like, man, wow, And the reason why they made postseason because, wow, oh man, they had a lineup. I remember me being this young while I was in high school, and I'm like, man, these Rockies team, like this expansion team, is like, man, they had some hitters. They had like Larry Walker, Dante Bichette, Andres Galarraga, and Vinny Castilla. Like these people were afraid about these Rockies because like they had like power hitters. Like with these four batters, like you have to walk them, someone get on base. You can't walk off four of them. If you walk off four of them, someone's gonna score a run because there's only 3 bases. Actually 4 bases with 3 when you score a run. But people were like, man, how can we get around this dangerous lineup? Like, man, like Larry Walker and Andres Galarraga, man, like those people were like power hitters, man. Like you pitched the wrong pitch, man, they hit that ball out the park. And the crazy thing with Coors Field is just like the elevation, man. Those balls, they fly like crazy. And as I said, that team, great team, but they lost to the Braves. Braves, 97, they had a pitching duel, Maddox, Smoltz, Glavine. Like, yeah, like that, they will shut you down. So yeah, so they lost the NL Division Series to the Atlanta Braves. So when the Rockies lost to the Braves in 97, they added this beast. This beast is named Todd Helton. This boy was like, whoo-wee, a contact hitter, just getting on base, and people like, man, this boy could play some baseball. And he was just known getting bad average over 300s, like boom, 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 click, click, boom, boom, boom. And 2000, he batted 372. Like, damn, like he won the batting title, 372. And this boy is like, because in baseball, they say if you get, hit 1 out of 3, you're batting, 333, which is good. Like, batting over 300 in baseball is amazing, But imagine batting 372. You're like, wow, So Todd Helton was a beast. He's batting, he won the batting title in 2000, batting 372. And this was fun. So yeah, that 2000, and Rockies, just winning games here and there, being decent. But in 2007, the Rockies made a late season run, winning 14 out of their 15 games. 14 out of 15 games. Like, they got so hot in the right time. People were clicking in all cylinders. And that a tie, wild card spot. And, when you wild card game, you have a tie, you got to play extra game. And they won the tiebreaker game. And when they won the tiebreaker game, then you're in the postseason. So the Rockies, this team was just so hot, they swept through the World Series. And the division game, they played the Phillies, swept them, and they swept the Arizona Diamondbacks. So the Rockies were playing the Boston Red Sox. And that Boston Red Sox, they had hitters like Ortiz and Manny, Kurt Schilling's pitching. It's like team that the Rockies have never faced before. So in the NL, they were handling business, but they were playing the Boston Red Sox. So when they played the Boston Red Sox, didn't look too good for Rockies. Rockies being how dominant in the postseason, but when they played the Red Sox, they unfortunately got swept. A person named Nolan Arenado in 2010, he's known one of the best third basemen in baseball with great defense and power hitter. And by them getting him, they had Charlie Blackmon and Trevor Story. And like, all right, Rockies, they got some hitters, just like back in the days. They had Larry Walker, Galarraga, Helton, all those people. And they're like, all right, Rockies are building again. Like, here we go again. And 2017, back in the postseason, but they lost the wild card game to the Diamondbacks. Like, all right, no problem. following year, made a postseason, and they beat the Cubs, but they lost to the Milwaukee Brewers. And people are like, all right, we got, Rockies, we got some people. But with the Rockies, like, they needed to add some more talent, more pitching. Like they had the right three core in place, but like they just couldn't get to far in the postseason like they did in the past. And then this is the thing that shocked the news is when they traded their star Noah Arian to St. Louis, and people were like, man, what the hell is going on with the Colorado Rockies, like management, like what's going on? Like we have these core players, and you're trading our asset. Like find a way to build, and that's the thing that people in Denver are just pissed. It's like they feel like the owner is just not investing in the team. Like he just making money. Like don't get me wrong, the owner's job is to make money and bring revenue for the team, but you feel like you're just investing elsewhere. And this was, what's going on in the Rockies. And they got Chris Bryant, from the Cubs. But, Chris Bryant, as I said, he won the World Series for the Cubs. And they brought him to add more bats. But with Chris Bryant, with the injuries and stuff, like he can't stay healthy. And, so right now, the Rockies is kind of like a laughing stock in baseball right now. So last team I'm going to talk about is the Colorado Avalanche. The Avs. Yes, the Avs. All right. So 1995, they relocated to Denver and were originally in Quebec before relocating to Denver. So when the Avs came to Denver, people were like, yes, we got a hockey team. The Avs, let's go. So when the Avs relocated to Denver, the first season in Denver, they won the Stanley Cup championship. And this was the first championship that Denver has ever won. And it came from the Colorado Avalanche. So after the Avs won their Stanley Cup, they, for 4 straight years, they kept on making the playoffs, and they lost because teams keep on defeating them. They keep on falling short, keep on defeating them short. Then 2001, the Avs made it to the finals, and they played New Jersey Devils, and they beat them, and they won another cup. So the Avs won their second cup, and when they won the second cup, they acquired this person named Ray Bourque, who was an awesome defender who helped the Avs in their defensive team. He was a captain, and after he won that cup, like he retired. Like he was happy, and that was his only cup that he won, and he's like, hey, I'm hanging it up. I'm done. And then after the 2001 Cup, the Avs was like, all right, let's do it again. Let's see if we can win another cup. So when 2003 happened and they got upset by the Minnesota Wild, you had the all-time great, probably one of the best goalies, Patrick Roy. He was just like, all right, I just hanged up. He was like, he was old and he did what he could do. Then after he retired, then the Avs continued to struggle through. Then 2009, you have Joe Sakic. He's like, all right, I played enough. I did what I could do. I'm hanging it up. Then 2 years later, then you have Peter Forsberg, who retired in 2011. So this was like the 3 core players that the Avs had to help them win the 2 Stanley Cups. And so when they retired, it was like, all right, it's time for us to rebuild. Let's find a way to find people to draft so we could build a team to help us win another cup. So now we're in the rebuilding phase for the Avs, and when your team's not doing well, you'll get good draft picks. So when the Avs were struggling in the 2010s, they got future draft picks like in 2011. Gabriel Lance Hook, they got him in 2011. Then a couple years later, they got Nathan McKinnon. Then after that, in 2015, they got Mikko Rahetten. Hope I'm pronouncing his name right. So these were like the 3 core players that the Avs drafted for the team. And so when they drafted that core, people were like, all right, this is the future of the Avs. These are great high picks, and these are the 3 core people that would lead us, hopefully, to win a cup one day. So in 2020, they got a coach. His name was Jared Benar. And basically what he was wanted to develop the Avs, like with the talent, like how could we make the Avs a great hockey caliber team? And what he did was that he made the Avs like elite, like with their high-powered offense, their speed, and great defensive play. And when they had the three core players, they like, all right, we need to find a way to add a defensive person, because back then when the Avs won, they had Ray Bourque, and he helped them win their second cup. Like, all right, we need a great defender. So they added a key player named Kale Maker to the team to boost the defensive team for the Avs. So by them adding that key defensive player, 2022 comes along and the Avs were unstoppable. Like, this team was so good, and people were like, could this team be the team that could win the Stanley Cup with the players that we drafted? Could this be the team? So when they did, as I said, with their speed and their high power offense, and the Avs made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. They defeated Tampa Bay Lightning, and as I said, the key players were McKinnon, and you have your great defender, Makar, Lance Hook, who dominated through the playoffs. And Makar was awarded a Conn Smythe Trophy as playoff MVP because of his excellent play of playing defense. And now with the Avs right now, they're a good caliber hockey team. The cool thing about the Avs is like their players that they have are very, very young. So the Avs will be there for a while. And hopefully with this core players that the Avs have, they could win another cup in the future. So here are the four sports teams I've talked about are the Denver Nuggets, the Colorado Rockies, the Colorado Avalanche, and the Denver Broncos. And these are the four sports teams in the Denver area. And if you're a person moving, relocating to Denver, now you have four major sports teams to watch. And the cool thing about these sports teams is like all these stadiums about a mile away, which is pretty cool because right now we are in the fall season of 2024. And imagine you catching a baseball game and watching a football game the same day, or watching a baseball game and catching a basketball game, or vice versa. But it's pretty cool because the stadiums are all a mile apart. And as I said, I hope you like this video. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do, and I hope to see you soon.